There's always that one guy that says, I caught about 20 fish yesterday pre-fishing. How many times have you said or heard that after tournament? I was killing them in practice, but I don't know what happened. You know what? Great job. But I haven't seen too many tournament trails. Cut checks to people who win practice. Keep checking the mailbox every day because, they might just send you a participation trophy. I'm getting ready to explain what pre-fishing is, or as some people call practice, and why it's so important. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and let's get started. Just think if your favorite sports team met up for the first game of the season and they haven't practiced together all year, but every other team has practiced. I understand you're playing, on your home field and you played with most of the team before and you got history together. The problem is you're not playing each other. You're playing another team that has drastically improved since the last time you faced them. And they've had time to practice. How do you think your game is going to go? This is the same approach some people take when it comes to bass fishing tournaments. If you want to keep donating, then it's okay. But I'm sure you want more. That's why you're watching this video. I think most anglers have a little competitive side and would love to win or come in with a respectful finish now and then. Most of us have, other obligations like work, family, that takes up a lot of our times, but you still have to find a way. I'm just going to say this. I was once told, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way, not an excuse. Pre-fishing or practice, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to tell you what it is and why it's so important. Pre-fishing should be an attempt to get more familiar with a body of water you're going to fish and find out where the fish are. Pre-fishing gives me an opportunity to be more efficient on the water and develop patterns and learn the lake while not being under the pressure, of time restraints of a tournament. When I go out to practice or pre-fish, I'm just out there to find areas that have fish. I know sometimes it's hard to do, but you're not out there to see how many fish you can catch. Remember, you're out there to learn something new, not to verify something you already know. When anglers usually fish a body of water they've never been on, they're more likely willing to pre-fish and put in the time and try to learn the lake. On the flip side of that, when they're familiar with the lake, sometimes they don't go pre-fishing, they just go fishing. A rule I kind of live by is that, if I'm fishing a lake, and I got a spot that I constantly catch fish from, I do not fish it. My main objective when pre-fishing is to learn where everything is and try to determine where I'm going to be fishing. This will start out with map studies before I hit the water because most large bodies of water can't be fully covered in a couple days. Here's a simple strategy that might help you out when it comes to practice or pre-fishing. Number one, find several areas that hold fish. I know that seems simple, but that's what you need to do. Number two, find out what type of presentation they want. Number three, you're going to find an area that has, a couple larger fish because you're going to need a kicker. Number four is just a repeat of number two. Find out what kind of presentation they want and deliver it to them. Number five, determine how these fish will react to changing conditions on tournament day. That's the biggie right there. Most of us can get all the steps, except dealing with changing conditions, which is almost the most crucial one. Let's look at one that we tend to encounter most of the time, and that's a cold front. Usually when a cold front moves in the bass in the shallow water, they move a little bit deeper, because the temperature change. Y'all listen good because I'm getting ready to give you some juice, freshly squeezed. Not all bass move to deeper water. Some bass move to rocks, wood, or the black floats underneath the docks. They're also going to move a little tighter to cover as well. Let's say, the fish were on the walkway, the back walkway of a dock before the cold front hit. Now they just basically probably moved up to the front poles of the dock, right? So that's where you need to target. The longer the cold front, the deeper they usually go. Make sure you look for brush piles and stumps in deeper water. I know most anglers like tend to slow down during a cold front and might throw a shaky head or a jig. All we're trying to do is just entice a fish to bite an easy meal that they don't have to chase down. If that doesn't work though, don't be afraid to speed it up a little bit and throw something like a crankbait. This may trigger a reaction strike out of fish when nothing else works. Since changing conditions have ruined more tournament strategies for anglers, you need to be prepared. You need to know what to do when a cold front hits, when you have rising water, low water, high winds, overcast, cloudy days, fluctuating water levels, sunny, bluebird skies, temperature changes, heavy rain, extreme heat. So make sure you monitor the weather before the tournament so you can try to anticipate what the bass is going to do. My tournament starts the minute I decide to commit to it. I start mentally preparing and start gathering the information. One of the fastest ways to learn about a new body of water is by asking other anglers in your network that you can trust. This works well in club tournaments where you have a lot of good friends. Ask your buddy. He doesn't have to tell you exactly what he was catching them on and stuff, but he can tell you like maybe their own points, secondary points, or they were basically out deep on humps. Just make sure if you're fishing, larger tournaments, you don't violate any information sharing rules for that tournament. If you don't have access to the inner circle, uh, too bad for you, right? Then you need to do some research. If you haven't seen my video titled Which Ramp, check it out because it really goes into detail about how to research for a tournament. I'm not going to cover it now. Just go back and watch that video. Which ramp? All right. I love studying the old tournament data. Most organizations post like their results online these days, so you'll have some historical data to help you out. This is a great way to see like how much weight you may need to be successful on that time of the year. They may also reveal areas of the lake where the tournaments were actually won. This can be extremely helpful for a lake you've never been on. Usually, if you practice during the week, the boat traffic isn't that bad. But on some lakes, it can turn into a freaking circus on the weekends with all the recreational boats and other tournaments. This can actually reposition fish, so take that in consideration. Many of the areas you found during practice may unknowingly become community holes during tournaments because with today's electronics, it's hard to find a spot that no one else hasn't already discovered. Most of the time, I'm trying to fish fast when I pre-fish to cover as much water as possible. But for me, that usually means throwing a crankbait, bladed jig, or buzzbait. If I don't get, a bite, I'll slow it down. But when I move to another area, I will fish both ways again, fast and slow. I'm not trying to dial in exactly what the fish are hitting or what color, they prefer. I save that for tournament day. Once I get a couple bites, in the area, I'm going to continue looking for similar places, around the lake and attempt to put together a pattern. I try to basically dial in on one pattern instead of basically creating, several small patterns. My goal is to find 4 to 6 places where I can duplicate that pattern and cycle through them throughout the day. I have a few tricks up my sleeve that I'm getting ready to share with y'all so I don't hook fish. I will take the hooks out of my whopper ploppers and top waters because you can still see the blow up and if there's a fish there. Let's say I'm on Lake Norman and I'm fishing docks with a Senko. I use a VMC crossover ring and a split shot ring to tie to my Senkos, right, when I use it wacky style. This way, I don't throw off the fish before tournament. Here's a picture of my setup right here. I once thought since I fish as a co-angler, there was really no reason for me to pre-fish because I was at the mercy of the boater on tournament. Since the person I was practicing with is definitely not going to be the person I fish with in the tournament, it really didn't serve a purpose because they're going to fish differently and not even in the same area. Later, I found out I was completely wrong and that it helped me so much to get out there and practice before turn. I found out that every little detail that I learned in pre-fishing, I could apply it in the tournament. For example, I was practicing one time a few days before the tournament, and I knew the fish were on rocky points that had chunk rock. Once I was close to an area like that, I'd fire that crankbait over and boom, hook one. And if I hadn't did that, I would have never even caught a limit. Let's take a look at the negative side of pre-fishing. An angler can catch a lot of fish, a few weeks or a few days before the tournament and get hung up on a pattern or area where they had success. Then they go back and try to duplicate it on tournament day and fail miserably. Conditions and fish can change daily, and most of the time, they change a lot in a few weeks. If you take note of the current conditions and the weather, you can somewhat predict what the fish are going to be doing on tournament day. It's hard to totally scrap your strategy or patterns when you pre-fish, but if it's not working and the conditions have changed, you have to adapt. Don't wait too long because you're going to find yourself running out of time. I'm going to throw in a quote that one of my subscribers mentioned to me, and here it goes. If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something that you've never done. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back. If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. Let that soak in for a minute. If you'd like me to answer questions related to bass fishing, shoot me an email at realtalkwc@gmail.com. Once again, realtalkwc@gmail.com, and I'll try to answer it online in my next video. If you got even a little value out of this video, set the hook on that subscribe button and drop me a comment so I know I'm giving you the content that you like. Tight lines, everyone. Check out my next video and see you on the water.